Hello ladies and gentlemen and movie lovers of all kind, and welcome back to the channel. As always, I am your host, Brett Murphy, and for today's video it is going to be another ranking. And I am going to be ranking all 6 episodes of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So the very first season of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier has finally wrapped up. And although reactions were initially mixed, it seems like most people really came around to this series by the end. This being Marvel's second original series for Disney+, and coming fresh off of WandaVision, the expectations were very high. So, did The Falcon and the Winter Soldier live up to the hype? Well, without further ado, let's hop right into things. Number 6. Episode 2, The StarSpangled Man. Now I want to start off by saying I actually didn't dislike any of these episodes. I actually enjoyed the show pretty consistently the whole way through. But this episode is by far the weakest in my mind. The only part that I really enjoyed was just the dynamic that Sam and Bucky have, which is something I've enjoyed since Captain America Civil War. I like the majority of their banter, I like their love-hate relationship when we know they actually love each other. They're essentially like two bickering brothers. Now that is by far the standout bit of this episode, because the rest isn't bad, it's just not great. I felt that a lot of the humor was a bit awkward and didn't work all that well. And for whatever reason, the action scenes, or I guess really the only action scene in this episode, felt really, phony to me. It just felt lifeless, it had no personality of its own. It had no rhyme, no rhythm, it was kind of incoherent. That scene just really didn't do it for me at all. Not to mention, John Walker was just about instantly irritating, and not in the way that he develops to be. He was just so full of himself, like his head so unbelievably far up his own ass. But I will say that that scene in the locker room before he puts on the Captain America suit was actually pretty good, because it shows that this is just a normal guy. He has fears, he has anxieties, he has insecurities. And the mantle of Captain America is pretty friggin' huge. Although I do want to add the other thing that I do like about this episode, which is probably the strongest aspect aside from Sam and Bucky's relationship, is the bit of the episode that takes place with Isaiah Bradley. Because that was some incredibly powerful, albeit brief stuff. Number 5, Episode 3, Power Broker. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are really going to disagree with me on that one, and that's fine. Seeing Zemo back and seeing him finally put on his iconic mask was epic. I loved Daniel Bruhl in Captain America Civil War. I think he's one of the MCU's strongest villains. However, I didn't really get that impression with this episode. He was so lighthearted and goofy and cracking jokes and making snide remarks. I just didn't really buy into that. I mean, you go from Captain America Civil War to this episode, it doesn't even feel like the same character. And also, Madripoor was very cool, and I liked all of the lore that they hinted towards. It added an extra sort of element of mystery to the series that I quite enjoyed. And then of course you have the already iconic Zemo dancing. I liked the act that they had to put on too. I liked that Bucky had to sort of slide back into that role of the Winter Soldier, a role that has haunted him so much since he broke free. But everything else in this episode just also didn't really do it for me. Again, not awful, but not great either. The action once again felt very fake and forced. I don't know what it was, it didn't feel very impactful at all. The punches didn't feel like they were doing any damage, the gunshots didn't have any oomph to them. And I don't know if this was just me, but it also felt like the plot was very, very rushed. They just wanted to get from point A to point B as fast as possible. Number 4, Episode 1, New World Order. Yeah, I actually really enjoyed this pilot episode. I mean, it got off to a really solid start with a very exciting action sequence. And this is the type of action that I am looking for. It felt fast-paced, it felt exciting, it felt like there was actually things at stake. But that wasn't even the best part of this episode. For me, it only got better. I love when shows or movies like this can bring these larger-than-life characters down to our scale. I really enjoyed seeing that Sam and his family were struggling. Not that I got any, satisfaction or pleasure out of it, but I mean, this guy is an Avenger. He saved the world how many times? And to see that even he has financial struggles makes it all feel very real. But I think Bucky's bits were the standout here. Having that callback to him being the Winter Soldier, that nightmare that we get a glimpse into, hearing that Winter Soldier score from Captain America the Winter Soldier just gave me goosebumps. And seeing him really struggle to sort of integrate himself back into the modern day, into the real world and just regular life, was also fascinating and quite touching to me. Number 3, Episode 5, Truth. I loved this episode, and I really thought a lot of people were going to like it less than they did. But it seemed to be pretty unanimously loved, which I was very happy with. Because this episode was all about the characters. There really wasn't any action sequences aside from the opening fight sequence, which again I also felt was fantastic. Again, like I'm talking about, impactful. These punches, these hits, these smacks, these cracks with the shield, they all felt like they were carrying a ton of weight behind them, like they were doing some serious damage. Not to mention the amount of emotion behind it. With John Walker actually trying to kill them, he's going mad after everything that just happened to him at the end of episode 4. And Sam and Bucky looking to strip him from the shield and Steve's legacy. But again, this episode had so many spectacular character moments. Truly emotional and heartfelt. It had great dialogue. Seeing Sam finally take on the shield and training with it felt great in the moment with him and his nephews. And then of course you have Bucky's apology for not understanding where Sam's coming from, admitting that he has no idea what it's like to be a person of color. Both him and Steve had no idea what it meant for Sam to take on the shield. I also thought that John Walker had some really standout moments in this episode as well, with the court scene, him trying to explain himself, and then also him apologizing to Lamar's family for not being able to protect him. And then of course, Sam going to see Isaiah Bradley once again was so impactful. It really does just put a lot of stuff into perspective, both in terms of the MCU and the way that even these things happen in this universe, and it also calls to attention a lot of real life issues. Overall, this episode was a very story-driven piece, and it was incredibly effective. Number 2, episode 4, The Whole World is Watching. Can I just say it's a tie between episode 4 and the finale? Because putting this in the number 2 spot feels like a disservice. This episode was marvelous top to bottom. I think it had the best action in the entire series. It had some quite beautiful and memorable character moments. Like the opening scene with Bucky, oh my God, did that ever break my heart. Oh, that scene had me welling up so bad I was on the brink of bursting into tears. Just seeing that sweet release, seeing the look on Bucky's face when he knows that he is finally free, just so well written and so touchingly portrayed by Sebastian Stan. Probably his best moment in his entire MCU run thus far. Although I do wish that it lasted a little bit longer. I thought that the fight with the Dora Milaje was excellent. I thought Sam, Bucky, John Walker, and Lamar fighting with the Flag Smashers was also wonderful. And Sam trying to talk Carly down from running this whole movement was very moving. And then you had John Walker going apeshit, taking the serum, becoming an absolute beast, and that ending. Oh man, that ending. Did that ever leave my jaw on the floor? But coming in at number 1 is episode 6, One World, One People. I know, surprise, surprise, a finale in the number 1 spot. What can you do? I mean, when your episode starts off with Sam in his brand new Captain America suit donning the shield, you know you're in for a real treat. And a real treat we got. So much went on in this episode. I'm really just gonna list off everything that happened because there was so much that I loved. Firstly, all of the action scenes kicked a lot of ass. You had the Power Broker reveal, you had the conclusion of the Flag Smashers movement, you had Sam's big moments and speech when he's finally in the spotlight with all of the world's senators, with all the cameras on him and all the eyes on him. You had John Walker with his own shield donning the Captain America suit once more, but also coming in clutch and saving the day for a sort of pseudo-redemption arc, and then becoming the US agent. You have Bucky making amends with all of those he's wronged, although I would have liked that scene in the apartment to go a little bit longer as well. You had Isaiah Bradley's statue in the Captain America Museum, so he will never be forgotten. And then you had that last little montage with Sam, his family, his friends by their boat, and of course Bucky's there. It just absolutely warmed my heart and was the perfect way to end this first and possibly last season. And I just absolutely cannot wait to see what happens with these characters next. So that is all for today's video, folks. Be sure to let me know down in the comments if you agree or disagree with my ranking. And feel free to let me know how you would rank all 6 episodes of The Falcon and The Winter Soldier. If you enjoyed that video, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. And if you'd like to see more content, consider subscribing to my channel and ringing that little bell icon. That way you can be notified about all of my latest uploads. And as always, stay safe, thank you so much for watching, and that's a wrap. Hey you, yeah you, if you made it this far, just know I appreciate you. And while you're here, consider hitting that subscribe button.